Hi everybody, welcome to Kalinting Reads, where we talk about books in the horror genre, or at least horror adjacent. My name is Dimas and I am your host. Today I'm going to be reviewing a middle grade horror book. Now, middle grade horror books are scary stories geared towards kids ages around 8 to 14 years old. However, it doesn't mean that adults cannot enjoy them. On the contrary, it is very possible that we might enjoy these books even more so as adults. The biggest reason might have something to do with nostalgia. Reading middle grade books as adults, to me at least, makes me feel like I'm a kid again. Suddenly, I'm seeing the world through a kid's perspective, and everything that I view as mundane or not terribly exciting anymore suddenly becomes interesting again, just like when I was a kid. While reading them, I also lose a certain cynicism for a while, and suddenly I am open to believing that good guys will always win, and that authority figures such as parents, teachers, and police officers will always be there to protect us. So yeah, for me, it is always fun to just leave any concerns or stress that I may have as an adult for a moment and just put myself back in a kid's frame of mind. In a weird way, for me, reading middle grade books reminds me of how much I have grown, reminds me of somewhat simpler times when most of my problems revolve around friends and school. So yeah, reading these kinds of books always give me that kind of comfort, so I will always go back to them anytime I need a stress reliever. That is why when I came across this book, Fright Filter by this indie author C.S. James, I was immediately interested to check it out. From reading the brief description of the book on Amazon, I understand that this is the first book in a new horror series for middle graders called Twisted Books to Leave You Shook, much like what Goosebumps was. Now, I loved Goosebumps books as a kid. In fact, I credit Goosebumps as the books that ignited my interest in reading. It was very imaginative, fun, and in some of the episodes, it was genuinely scary. For example, Welcome to the Dead House and Piano Lesson Can Be Murder creeped me out when I was a kid. And also, the covers for the original Goosebumps books were brilliant. Those covers were the main reason why I bought the books in the first place. They have that beautiful hand-painted quality to them that I just don't see anymore on book covers nowadays. So, can Fright Filter by C.S. James, the first title in the Twisted Books to Leave You Shook series, fill the Goosebumps-sized hole in my chest? Well, here is my review. Fright Filter tells us about Nicole, a regular 12-year-old girl who is just navigating herself through school, friends, and family, which consists of her mom and her little brother. It's been quite a difficult time for her, especially since the death of her father earlier that year. We were informed early on that she used to be a straight A student and always did her school assignments. Now, she mainly hangs out with Rebecca, her classmate, who is a bit of a bully, and yet Nicole always follows everything that her friend says, including when Rebecca tells her to post a humiliating photo of her classmate named Patty on social media. Luckily, before Nicole manages to press send, her teacher calls her out and takes away her phone for the day. Needless to say, Nicole is bummed about it. However, her friend Rebecca takes it even further by humiliating Patty in front of everybody later that day. Nicole doesn't agree with Rebecca's behavior, but she doesn't do anything about it either. Maybe that is why Nicole suddenly feels a chill down her spine when she notices that Patty is looking straight at her and apparently whispering strange things from afar. The next day, Nicole gets her cell phone back. During a call with Rebecca that night, she finally says to her friend that maybe they were indeed a little bit too harsh on Patty. Rebecca, as usual, disagrees and quickly changes the subject into trying on face filters on their phones. Nicole, giving in to her friend's impulses as usual, also plays along with the face filters until it is time for them to call it a day. When Nicole wakes up the next morning, she immediately knows that something is wrong. Her mouth feels sticky and her legs feel heavy. Only after Nicole sees herself in the mirror does she realize that her face and part of her body has transformed overnight into that of a swamp reptilian creature. In the midst of panic, she realizes that this swamp creature's face resembles one of the face filters that she tried on last night with Rebecca. For reasons unknown, that horrible face filter attaches itself into her face in real life. She thought at first that it's the app on her phone that did it, but then she remembered seeing Patty whispering strange things to her from afar the day before. Could Patty be putting some kind of curse on her as a revenge? Nicole knows there is only one way to find out. She has to find Patty before the curse spread all the way to the rest of her body. She only has to find out how to get out of her room and walk through the neighborhood without being seen. Now, I loved the book. The minute I read the first few pages, the writer clearly loves and understands what makes Goosebumps books so beloved. There are character interactions, humor, and off-chapter cliffhangers that reminds me of Goosebumps, and not once did it feel like a lazy knockoff. On the contrary, it is all cleverly written, and it brought nostalgia and joy for me when I read it. The one thing that this book does that I don't find a lot in Goosebumps books is the inclusion of a subplot involving grief. We can sense that the reason Nicole follows Rebecca's bullish way is because she just doesn't want to be herself. This is because deep down, she blames herself for the death of her father and cannot yet accept the fact that her father is gone. There is a beautiful scene in the book that got me teary-eyed. It is when Nicole is standing in front of her father's grave and confesses how much she misses him and how much she struggles. This scene alone elevates the book from merely a kid's book into something that I think will resonate beyond its target audience. All in all, I give Fright Filter a 5 out of 5 stars. It brims with nostalgia, especially to those who read Goosebumps as a kid, has an important thing to say about how kids cope with grief, and it is very cleverly written. It also has a bonus story called It Started With an Itch by Sean Elwood, about an acne problem gone terribly wrong. This one is like a body horror for kids, but surprisingly goes to disgusting places in its descriptions. So I love this one as well. So that is my review of Fright Filter by C.S. James. I had fun reading it, and will definitely check out his other titles in the Twisted Books to Leave You Shook series. If you're a fan of middle-grade horror books like Goosebumps and want to have a bit of a nostalgia, I highly recommend you check this one out. If you have read it, let me know what you think of it in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again in the next book review video.